our Miss Brooks is presented each week to the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
Now, Brookesie, what show have you been watching this year that you are going to bring to us and open our eyes to the wider world of entertainment television? What do you got?
All right, I'm really excited. I just started watching this. It is The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City?
Yes, it's a brand new franchise.
There's Housewives out there
Same
too.
guy.
Oh, wow.
Wait, that's
Wait,
Utah, right?
Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah. Yes. So first I'm going to introduce the characters, give you a little background, and then I want to talk about the common theme. Yes, Paige.
Okay, question. Are they allowed to drink? Because I know the Real Housewives love the wine. Can they drink?
That's a good question. So some of them drink and some of them do not. But most of them do, and most of them get really drunk, like a normal housewife.
Like a normal housewife.
Well, I mean, like a normal like the franchise Real Housewives. They all just get drunk and like go crazy. All right. So I got to pull up my little cheat sheet. So first we have Lisa. She's originally from New York City, lives in Utah. She considers herself a Mormon 2.0. So she's Mormon, but she drinks.
But he's Muslim, but he drinks and eats pork.
So she attended BYU and then stayed in Utah, and owns like several marketing companies as well as a tequila company. And she is married with 2 kids. And I believe lives in Park City. Anyways.
Park City is an affluent area, right?
Park City is an affluent area of Utah, yes. Next, we have Mary Cosby. She is an interesting character. So she is Pentecostal, and she is the first lady, meaning her husband is the preacher. Her family, she inherited from her grandma, her family's empire of churches, restaurants, houses. She has houses all over America. She like shops at Louis Vuitton every day. She's very fancy. And she also from her grandma inherited her grandma's husband. So when her grandma died, her grandma left her husband to marry Cosby. So they have since.
This is juicy.
Right.
Wait,
so
what?
they have since. Yeah.
You inherit.
I know.
Don't know
So they
how
have
that
married
works.
and have 1 kid. And it's important to note that
From her grandmother,
Yes.
grandmother, not her mother, her
grandmother.
So this guy's
so
like
she
80-something years old?
maybe.
Maybe older. Go ahead.
And
Wait, when did this
is
happen? I need to know when this happened.
20 years ago.
And how, I hate to ask, how old is this lady?
Probably early 40s.
Yeah, I don't know how old she is,
Yeah.
but
Typically the housewives are in the early 40s.
They have 1 kid together who's like 17. So
Yeah.
Yeah. You know the reason I ask.
Yeah, I
because-
know why you're asking.
Ugh.
I want to say worst case she was 17, but let's continue.
right.
All right, go.
But it's not her grandpa, it's her step grandpa that she married. So it makes it better. At least.
So there's no blood relation, but that's still
no.
the husband of her grandmother.
Grandma. Yeah.
No, it's still like a 70-year-old man
Yes.
impregnating a teenager.
Yeah, who also slept with your grandmother.
Yes. And it's important to note that she is Black.
Wow! I did not see that one coming.
See? Because she like grew up in Utah, and like it's not super common to be Black in Utah, or Pentecostal for that matter.
Yeah, ask the mailman.
Right.
Horrible look.
The next one we have is Heather. Heather is a devout Mormon. Her ancestors were pioneers, and she talks about that all the time. It's a really big deal for her. And she married Mormon royalty. I think the person that she married is related
Jebediah.
to John Smith, who was like one of the founders. But she got divorced.
Yeah, one of the founding pedophiles.
Exactly. She got divorced. Her husband divorced her, and she did not want to be divorced. But her husband divorced her, and it was a huge deal because the church like rejected her after that because she was divorced, and the Mormon church does not accept divorced women, even though she didn't want to be divorced. So she talks about that a lot. And also when she got divorced, she started to drink because she had never drank before because she was a devout Mormon. So she started drinking and like trying to live for herself and all of those things. And she has three daughters that she is now trying to teach about like how to be independent women and not just serve the church and serve their husbands and like get married and procreate. So that's kind of her big storyline.
Wow.
Then we have Meredith Marks. She is Jewish, lives in Park City, owns like a retail stores in Park City. Her and her husband are married. She has two kids, a daughter and a son. The son's name is Brooks, which I also found very interesting because I know my name is a boy's name.
I honestly, I've never heard your name before, and I've only heard Brooke as a girl's name. No, whatever, but I didn't think of it as a boy's name. Is it?
It is.
Common.
Yeah, there's another, if you are a Real Housewives fan, there was a Real Housewives of Orange County. One of the OGs of the OC, Vicky, her boyfriend's name was Brooks also.
OG.
That was her like tagline. All the housewives have taglines. That was her tagline. So anyways,
what's your tagline?
I don't know. That's a good question.
You need to come up with a tagline there, Brooks.
I do. So her storyline isn't that interesting other than her and her husband are like separating and they're trying to like work through that, but I don't know, not super, super interesting. And then the next one is Whitney. So she is also a descendant of Mormon royalty, which again is a really big deal. However, she fell in love with her boss. They had an affair. She got pregnant. Yep, she got pregnant. They divorced their spouses, married, had two kids, and now they've been married, and they are not Mormon anymore because the church excommunicated both her and her current husband. And they are like both big drinkers and talk about sex openly, which is again like a really big faux pas in the Mormon world. And she also has two children, and one of them is a boy, and his name is Brooks as well. So two
popular Mormon name?
Apparently it is. And then her father is a struggling drug addict, and she helps him a lot. And that like...
Is there a successful drug addict? I guess there is, the Wall Street dudes, but...
I was going to say,
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yeah.
Andrew Lloyd Webber. Keith Richard?
But he's a former. But the reason why that's a big deal is because that further like excommunicates her from the church, because if somebody does drugs in your family, like that's bad on you. As a Mormon, right? And then the last one is Jen Shaw. She is a very interesting character. She is Tongan, grew up in Salt Lake City. Most people thought she was Black, so she was very ostracized growing up in a traditionally white Mormon world. Her husband is what's what I'm looking for? Is Islam. Muslim, thank you, that's what I'm looking for.
Is Islam? He's the entire faith?
He's the entire faith. He is a Muslim. Her husband is Muslim, so she converted to Muslim. She converted to Islam. Wow. Anyways, that is also like a big like. Oh, and her husband is the coach of U of U, I believe, the football coach of U of U.
Wow.
So them being Muslim is like a huge deal in Salt Lake City, Utah. So I am probably 10 episodes deep on this so far. And what I find very interesting about this is, number one, a little background about myself. I lived in Park City, Utah for 5 years. It is a very interesting place to live. And one of the things that was very, very predominant when you live, and even in Park City, Utah, which is the like very quote unquote liberal part of Utah, it's like the Austin of Utah, pretty much. So it's very liberal, a lot of rich people. All they really care about is like making money, smoking weed, and buying Louis Vuitton, right? So the interesting thing about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City is they talk about religion a lot, which is not a big deal in any, I mean, maybe it is a big deal in any of the other housewives, but it's not like a predominant conversation. In this one, it is. And again, like I said, I find that interesting because I lived in Park City, Utah for 5 years, and it was such a big deal. I have never talked about religion more in my entire life, like, but not just as a religion, like it's a cultural thing in Utah, if that makes sense. So
it's
like
almost a status symbol by the sound of it. Like
exactly.
Just being part of a specific church gives you status by the sound of it.
Being part of the Mormon church specifically, and like I guess having, I don't know, family members that were founders or something is a big deal. I never really heard of that. But like I said, it's such a cultural experience. Like you have to behave in a certain way, even if you're not Mormon, because that's just what's expected of you in Utah. I was a bartender in Utah, and the liquor laws were very strict. Like you had to measure every single ounce of liquor that you sold compared to like what your register said. You could not be over, you could not be under. It was very strict. You could only have 1 ounce of liquor in front of you at any given time. So you couldn't have like a Jack Daniels and a shot of something. You could have a Jack Daniels and then you could drink that and then I could serve you like a shot.
They can't double fist.
Right.
Oh man, I would have died in college.
Yeah. And that's because like the entire state is controlled by the Mormon religion. So anyway, so most of the storyline is around like these women kind of rejecting being traditional Mormons and traditional housewives, because it's still like very predominant today. You marry young, like 18, 19 years old, even now in 2021, you have kids, you have 5, 6, 10 kids, whatever it is. And the women take care of the kids and the men work. And that's just how it is. Again, it's very cultural as well. Even if it's not your religion, it's just what it's like there.
Hey, Brooks, like the other housewife shows, do some of them have pre-existing relationships where they're friends in the same circle? Or is this series just showing them like they all 10 put together to be on the show and some of them don't really know each other's families and stuff?
No, most of them all know each other previously. Okay.
Yeah, that's
like
a running theme.
Right. Like a couple of them went to BYU together and now they're best friends and they like own businesses and throw parties in Park City. And like the last episode that I watched was about Sundance and them all like throwing parties for Sundance. I used to work Sundance Film Festival when I lived in Park City. It was a crazy time, but you made a lot of money and saw a lot of famous people. So it was kind of, I don't know, kind of cool. But I used to always say like the worst aspects of the city I'm from come to the city I live in, because people just like go crazy and party and there's so much like drugs and the whole town completely changes. And it's all about like who you know and who you are, where like Park City is really more about like skiing and, you know, like doing snow activities. Except during Sundance. Yeah. So anyways, that's my take on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake. Like I said, super interesting to me because it's all about like, you know, this religion, but then rejecting it, but then still having the like cultural boundaries of the religion that they're trying to reject. And
Okay, I just had a realization, and you said John Smith earlier, and I was thinking the Pocahontas John Smith.
No, the
No.
John Smith that
This is-
sounded
This is Joseph Smith.
Joseph.
Oh, is it Joseph
I thought it was
Smith?
John also. Too.
Okay, yeah, because I was like, I was a little harsh there, but it was related to the Pocahontas John Smith.
I thought it was
thing.
Jebediah Smith in my head, but
No, this is Joseph Smith. No,
This
Yeah,
is
you're
the
right.
dude,
My
this is the
apologies.
dude that found the stones.
Yeah.
In New York, upstate New York.
In
Right.
New York.
yeah.
And only he read the stones. The stones were only like visible to him.
Yeah.
And then he told
that
everybody, we have to like walk to Utah.
He could have
From
been our
upstate New York.
president.
Yeah. Now he was 40 years older than his wife, so it's possible.
Probably.
And
hey,
wait,
go ahead.
no.
sorry.
He was only a year. I'm looking at the wrong year. He's only a year older than his wife. Okay, much better.
So like
I feel better
the
now.
other Housewives, which I used to watch, I haven't watched them in probably a decade. Do they? Is there any cat fights or anything with the husbands that get a little bit? Yeah, like stuff like that. Any juicy stuff like that with these women, or is like the religion aspect keeps them from being violent?
No, it kind of does, but I just thought the religion aspect was so interesting again because I lived in Park City, Utah, so I sort of get it and understand it. Had I not lived in Park City, I wouldn't it would be this weird thing to me. But like I said, everybody that I knew that didn't live in Park City, because most of the people that live in Park City aren't actually from Park City, but people that lived in the surrounding areas, they all were Mormon, they all grew up Mormon, they all talked about it. It was all like a big thing. Either you didn't drink or you did drink as a Mormon. If you did drink, you were known as a Jack Mormon. I don't remember why, but it was a thing. Hopefully
Jack Daniel Mormon.
Yeah, hopefully I'm not offending anybody that's listening right now. But
we'll get there eventually.
True. But the one like kind of big thing that is obvious is that a lot of people think it's really weird that Mary Cosby married her grandfather.
Because it is weird. I don't.
Right.
I'm gonna say it.
And
it's weird. Don't.
It's weird.
It's one
And
thing,
then,
age gaps. We all understand age gaps, but when someone becomes a part of your family via marriage, that generally should kick them out of the marriage pool for you.
Yeah. But her grandma, she keeps talking about it, that it's her grandma that wanted this. And so she's like, it's not weird because my grandma knew me and my grandma knew that I was the one that was going to inherit.
That makes it even weirder.
The church. And I agree.
That means your grandma know what she was thinking about you.
I'm sure there's videos of this on Pornhub.
Oh my God. Ugh.
It's probably a whole category.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Mike, let us know.
Oh.
Sure. Can I use your account?
It's open. Go ahead. It's the same password.
He's got the premium.
Also, just in case you guys didn't know, we had to teach this to James. If you look at Pornhub on your phone, you want to go to the private mode.
Why are you bringing this up?
Private.
We had to teach this to James. There's like a whole story behind it. Everybody wants to know now.
Well, that also means that Brooks had that much deeper knowledge about it than you did.
Yeah, her and another one of our subscribers who will not be named.
Everybody knows that except James. Well, now he does. So that's my take on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
Wow.
Super interesting so far.
I'll wait for the reunion. How many more episodes are there before the season's over?
I think they're filming. I think they just filmed the reunion. So
They filmed through COVID?
Yeah, they are filming. They did a couple of the reunions on Zoom. They did the reunion with Potomac in person, but 6 feet distant. They have filmed Atlanta, and I think they did that in person as well, but 6 feet distant, socially distant. And then I know that they're just filmed Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
Okay, when's the crossover gonna happen?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to see Atlanta get in with the Potomac, get in with the.
I don't think they've ever had crossovers.
Come on,
I can think
that would be fun.
Jersey and New York, no. Not even
I
that.
don't even think Jersey and New York crossed over.
Yeah, I never did.
That's
All right.
interesting. You should pitch that to Andy.
That's right.
Andy, talk to Kevin Feige. He'll give you some pointers. Don't talk to Zack Snyder. Not the guy you want helping you with your housewives.
Could you imagine everything's got like that filter on it?
Snyder cut housewife. More fights.
I knew you guys could bring it back. I knew
He'll get an extra $100 million to make his version of it because he didn't get it the first time.
There'll definitely be more
Blaze
fights.
on everything.
All right. Whew. Okay, that really brought in a new range, a new crowd there, Brooks. You
guys were all staring at me like, what the fuck? This is what I generally look like when you guys are talking about like Snyder cuts.
I'm just like,
Snyder cuts.
Whatever.
Jeez. Like, who the hell is this Snyder guy that keeps talking about? God damn. Another episode about this dude?
I know.
all right.
Our Miss Brooks is presented each week through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.